Hi everyone, my name is Eric, and today I will be comparing the cooling power of the Opolar laptop vacuum versus one of my favorite laptop coolers. This is a laptop cooler that I've reviewed in the past, and a lot of people are saying that these vacuums work really well. Some people say they work even better. And I included a link in the description down below where you can pick one of these up for the best price. Now, I'll be monitoring the temperature reduction on my 17-inch Asus laptop while rendering a large 4K video file. The purpose of this is to make the CPU work really hard to get the temperature up so I can put the two different types of coolers to the test. This will replicate heavy game usage or any other intense work you might be doing on your laptop. Now on this system, I'm running a i7 processor and a GT 635M graphics card, which produce a lot of heat. And I'll show you the temperature of the CPU, the GPU, which is the graphics card, my SSD, which is the solid state drive, and my HDD, which is the regular hard drive. There are two hard drives in here, and I will monitor the temperature of all those four different devices on this plot chart, so you guys can really see the difference in temperature drop between the two different coolers. Now, I've been using my laptop cooler for years because I use my laptop constantly for personal use and for work. Keeping heat from building up in your laptop is one of the best ways to keep it lasting as long as possible. Now, if you've ever left your laptop on like a soft surface, like a bed or a couch for an extended period of time, you've probably noticed how hot the bottom surface can get. That buildup heat is very damaging not only to your hard drive, which holds all your valuable files, but also can shorten the life of other expensive, hard to replace components inside your laptop. Now, luckily my exhaust vent was on the left side because I'm right-handed and I don't want this, I wouldn't like to have this thing sticking out on the left side if this is where my mouse is going to be. And make sure also to check your ports and make sure it's not blocking anything important. Now this does block my VGA port right here, which is fine because I really only use my HDMI port, which is right here. The Opolar works by pulling air through the laptop's air ducts. The benefits of this is that it'll move air through the inside of your computer and over the metal cooling fans, which will help cool your CPU. It's pretty quiet for the amount of air that it moves in low settings, but at higher speeds it does become quite a bit louder. And there is also an auto mode which will adjust the fan speed according to the temperature that it senses coming out of the vent. Now you can also pick from 13 different speed settings right here and here, and past like a 5 setting it just gets a little bit too loud. So unless you're doing some heavy rendering and you're not going to be around your laptop, that would be fine, but I would never put this in a high setting when I was sitting around the laptop, and you'll hear why. Now another advantage is if you're traveling, it is easier to pack in your bag versus a laptop cooler. Now the disadvantages are that its awkward placement does get in the way more than a laptop cooler, and it only pulls air through the laptop's existing vents, which usually only cools off the CPU. My main concern is the hard drives because that's where all my valuable information is stored. The CPU does get cooled off pretty well by this computer's internal fan as it is. And another thing I didn't like about it is just the setup process. Now they do make it pretty easy because they do have this permanent installation, which I did install, and I'll show you why, is because these arms that fold out, which are spring-loaded, these don't fit in my air ducts. I can't use this quick setup, which is basically, it's the same thing as this, but it doesn't work because these things don't fit. So I'm just stuck with using this thing, which once you have it installed, it's not that bad. It's just not as easy as just placing it on the laptop cooler. And I would recommend this Opolar vacuum cooler if your internal fan is broken. Sometimes these internal fans are extremely hard to replace, they're hard to find, and they're very expensive. So this would definitely be one good option if your internal fan ever does break. Or if your internal fan is constantly turning on like a really high setting, this might be a good alternative to take some stress off of that fan. Now also, if you're playing a lot of games, or especially doing video editing, which is really taxing on your system, then you could put this cooler on to help aid in the cooling process because especially with video editing, your CPU runs really high and really hot. So you know, if you have an expensive system, you want to take care of it, you're doing a lot of you know, rendering out a lot of YouTube videos, this could be a good option for you. Okay, and so here are the temperatures. By the way, I am using Open Hardware Monitor. It is a free software. It is it's really great if you want to track the temperatures. I'm actually kind of surprised how many sensors are in a laptop, and you guys can just download that for free. It's not a paid program at all, so I'll include a link in the description if you want to go over and get that so you can check out your temperatures. But right now, so I'm looking at the purple one up top is the CPU. Now there's 4 cores of your CPU, but they're all pretty much the same temperature, so I'm just going to track core 1. And then the next graph is my GPU, and you know, I'm not playing any games or anything, so that is pretty much flatlined. And then the other 2 are, let's see, the solid state drives running at about 89 degrees Fahrenheit, and the regular hard drives right around 86. So very steady. The only thing that's bounced around is the CPU. So at idle, the CPU right now is around between 110, 114. It's bouncing, you know, it's around 110 degrees at idle temperature. And the room temperature, by the way, is 78 degrees where I'm at. So that's definitely going to affect the idle temperatures as well. Okay, so now I'll go ahead and render out a 4K video, which is going to put a lot of strain on the CPU. This is going to replicate, you know, if you play really intense games, or if you edit videos and render them out for YouTube. So let's go ahead and get this started. Okay, you can see the spike here. This is when I started just a minute ago and I wasn't recording. But now you can see the second spike is just from me starting it. It's already up around or over 160. Right now it's 165, 170. Some of the other cores actually are going up to about 180. You can definitely see the hard drive starting to rise just a little bit. They're staying pretty cool. The solid state drive right now is about 93 degrees. GPU is at about 105. And the CPU is right around 175. So I'll go ahead and turn up the fan, see if we can get that temperature down a little bit. So right now the Opolar is on full blast. It's pretty noisy. You can hear. So the CPU is still at around 175, and I'll go ahead. I have a sound meter. It's not the best. It's just from my phone, but I'm going to go ahead and hold it up here. I'm not sure how accurate those decibels are, but if I hold it up here, this is kind of right around where you'll be listening, or where your ears will be when you're in front of your laptop. So I'll go ahead and compare the decibel level compared to the cooler. So without me talking, it's around 25 decibels. So a little bit quieter. Okay, now I removed the Opolar vacuum, and we're going to render out a 4K video, same exact file. Just this time we are using the laptop cooler. So you can see right here where it's rendering the file, got up to around 178. That looked about the average, like maybe 175. You can see the spike in the hard drive. So right now the CPU is at about 170. And let's go ahead and test the noise level. And now I can hear my internal fan system starting to kick in. Temperature's at about 175. You can see the GPU is climbing up to about the same temperature as before. Oops. And that was the cat jumping at the camera. Looks like we're at about 177. So maybe a few degrees hotter with the laptop cooler versus the laptop laptop vacuum, the Opolar. It is spiking up to above 180, whereas with the laptop vacuum, it didn't break 180. It does look like the GPU is getting a little bit warmer too. So looking at these numbers, it does appear that the Opolar does cool it down a little bit better, not dramatically. All right, and now the video file is done. The internal fan will probably stay on until it goes below 140. Then it's starting to slow down. So let me see if I can zoom out a little bit on this graph. So as you can see here, this was with the Opolar, and this is with the laptop cooler. So you did see a little bit more of a heat spike on that one, a little bit more of a GPU spike, but you know, for the convenience of a laptop cooler, me personally, I'd rather have the cooler than the vacuum. It's just my preference, and it's definitely a lot quieter. All right, you guys, thank you so much for watching. If you did find the video helpful, I always appreciate those thumbs up, and make sure to subscribe to keep up to date with my future reviews. Bye, guys.